I couldn't write it fast enough.
We have him back. Can you hear us now?
I think it might be his headphones.
Could be the headphones.
Can you hear us?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We could hear you all along. Can you hear us?
Now I can.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've unplugged the headphones and we're not on my son's sophisticated thing.
Oh,
It was better than what we're going with here. And I'm in darkness. Hold on. Let me.
Okay.
Are we on yet? Is this?
But it's okay. This is how we do it every time.
Well, splendid. Let me. Are we on? Is it happening?
Yes.
We're live. This
Yes.
God-given moment of our lives.
Hello. Hello, people watching.
Hello, people watching.
We are getting this ready. We'll get it through, and
we've got.
once I put you off screen, you can get yourself fixed up, and I'll bring you back.
Okay, I need some light that I do not have. So let me go find better light. Hold on one second.
Okay, everybody. Until Matt gets lit, so to speak, I want to.
I like that.
I want to thank everyone for your very kind words about my loss of my kitty cat. She was my cat of many colors, and that's why we named her Kachina. And Kachina, of course, means the colors are many, the spirit is one. And her spirit has gone on to join the ancestors. So it hurt a lot, but we've had a lot of losses here, bigger ones than this. But it was big to me. Anyway. And now we're going to reintroduce Mr. Matthew Hall.
Who is still dicking around, but slightly less so than before.
That window behind you, Matt, is not working.
Oh, and that's sad. How about that?
Okay, that's much better.
All right.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah.
Hello, boys and girls.
Hello. How are you?
I'm flustered, as is pretty obvious, I think, and the usual tragic comedy of trying to get online, but I think we're here. And howdy.
Reference to my utter inexperience in doing all of it, so I apologize. It's my fault.
Woof.
Did you get Beth's message, Melody?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Adding her in now. We have a surprise, Matt.
Oh, good Lord.
And I just blew the surprise.
Evil genius that you are.
Beth, you'll have to come back in, hon. Click on the link I sent you. Beth, who was co-director with your mom's fan club, is going to join us real quickly just to say hi. But that's if we can get that working. So.
Right.
Working on podcasts, kind of like juggling with your hands tied behind your back.
That's right.
Anyway, first of all,
You might introduce me to Matt.
Hi, Mark. I'm familiar.
I know you've heard that. And Mark is a senior engineer at a company that makes motion picture cameras.
Hi.
So,
Red Digital.
You're Red?
Yep.
I actually had occasion to Google your website this week because I was researching American-made video cameras for the book I'm working on, and you guys came up first, and you're made in America, and I'm using you. You know, so
cool.
Thus far, you're in the book. You know.
I love synchronicity. It's so much fun. Okay. Well, then that's who he is. And Matthew, introduce yourself.
And I'm Matt Hall, and let's see, I write books and I work in medical advertising. But my mom was Grayson Hall, my dad was Sam Hall, and so I have like fairly intimate connections with the Dark Shadows, Badness, and beyond. And
And he puts up with all of us.
So what? I mean, so,
And you put up with all of us.
well, it's largely easy, you know. I mean, you guys have been amazing. You guys have been great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the lady I was talking to you about, oh no, she's still gone. I'm
Beth.
hoping to get her in, Beth. Yeah, she is the one who, when my stomach went south before our gathering for your mom, had the Grayson gathering in New York, and I had to go in the hospital. So Beth went and took her out, and they had the big party for her.
Right.
And she was just wonderful. And of course, 2 months later, I flew to New York, and I got a one-on-one afternoon, evening with her. And, you know, we went out, and she was just wonderful, as was your dad. And
Right.
they were good people. And you're good people also. So.
I have moments.
She's just sucking up to you.
I stumble through.
I don't suck. Do I suck up to you, Matt?
No. No. I actually remember an evening years ago in Los Angeles at a kind of Russian bar restaurant where like, you know, we sat down, and by the end of it, I thought, well, she's brilliant. You know, it's like, okay, she's brilliant. She has a whole life beyond what I knew of her. You know.
I know.
Yeah, it's amazing. We all do, but it's nice to see it, you know, out loud.
Well, you are also a genius, and which reminds me, are you watching Skinwalker Ranch, or have you watched it?
That watched what?
Skinwalker Ranch.
No.
Series.
No, I have not.
This would be your meat. You would like.
Right, but the one you want to watch is The Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. There's 3 or 4 new ones. There's one that was shot by somebody who wasn't authorized to be there. He's British. And it's really terrible. You don't want to bother with that. It's like 16 minutes long. Don't bother with it. But
I will check it out.
Yeah, there's a good one on Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposedly all about UFOs. It was done by J.J. Abrams.
Oh.
It's a 4-part, and the second episode, about 3/4 of the episode, is all about Skinwalker Ranch.
Neat. Okay, that's fantastic. I will.
They have all manner of fascinating things going on there, so it's amazing. So I have some questions for you.
Okay, I have.
Avatar 610 would like to know, would you consider writing another novel? Which brings along.
I am writing another novel, right this God-given moment of my life. I'm about 200 pages into the new thing. It relates in some ways to the last one, but in other ways it does not. And it's I like it a lot. It's how to put this? It's difficult. It's a complicated book. Like the last one was all in New York, and this one is national. And I wanted to when I wrote the last one, I wanted to cover like every aspect of Manhattan Island, and this one I'm trying to get every aspect of where we are as a country this minute, and that's been kind of complex because where we are as a country this minute has been very different than where we were 2 years ago, or 4 years ago, or 6 years ago. So that's I am actively in the middle of one, and now we're just gonna talk writers. We're just gonna talk like why you can't hyphenate why you can't hyphenate adverbs. You know, it's like
exactly.
That's bad. You can't say morosely affected with a hyphen in there because it's wrong.
Oh.
People who do that are bad and wrong and
standards. It's not fair.
Yeah.
He would also like to know, because he loves your blog, which is
Nantucket 73. and I was going great guns with it for several years, and then I sort of petered out, which was a shame because things have happened in that universe since that I didn't capture. But I've actually, well, that's the question, and then I'll answer it.
Okay. He wants to know if you would, or she would, wants to know if you would consider expanding it into a memoir.
It is kind of a memoir. That's kind of its function, and that's about as much of writing about me as I can do. It's like the upper limit of me writing about me. But it's about to take a turn for the weird, as Melody now knows. Because did you get a chance to look at any of the stuff I sent you?
Not yet, no. I've been doing this. But
all right, I could actually take the camera and do a shaky cam introduction to the file cabinets, and maybe I will if you're amenable, but it will be shaky cam and repulsive, and dogs will bark and things will happen. But I have filing cabinets full of newspaper clippings and paraphernalia and madness and all sorts of just stuff related to my parents. And to be ruthlessly honest, I'm extremely tired of living my life surrounded by filing cabinets. So I'm going to digitize everything, and I've already begun, wouldn't it be? I began it, but I've already begun. And because through that, I found all sorts of amazing, weird stuff that I'm just going to put it all online. And when I say all, I mean all. I mean every little 3-line clipping from some Hollywood newspaper saying that she was up for some job that she didn't get. You know, it's all going online. And that'll be like, I'm not sure if that's actually going to be part of Nantucket 73 or if it's going to be something else or a subjunct of Nantucket 73 or what the hell it's going to be. But it's going to be massive and excruciatingly boring. And because no,
not to some people.
No. I mean, there are amazing things. Hold on, let me turn around just one sec.
Yeah, let's see this. I've heard stories.
Here we have a photograph of Grayson Hall in, let me get it right, in a supermarket.
Oh my
God. Looking at vegetables and things. That was in the Peter Reeves on the corner of on like the corner of 7th Avenue. It hasn't been there in years and years and years. But that is the kind of thing I'm finding. And you know, that is just like just sitting here doing nothing. Here we have basically, yeah, you've all seen this one way or another, but this is like the MGM like handout for, this is like a press piece, like business press piece for the House of Dark Shadows movie, which has you know, all the standard stuff that one would expect, if I can get it into the center of the thing. And you know, it's your basic MGM press piece from that moment, which I think my father doodled on, and as he tended to with everything. And so that's just, I mean, but I found I had no idea that she'd done a play with Alan Alda in 1950 something or other, and I found the program for that. I'm putting it all on. Everything. I'm just putting it all online. And 50 years,
of course, for that horrible movie that she didn't really do, you know.
Oh, no, it's all going online. I mean, I have, I at this point, let the truth be known. You know, I mean, you know, I think at this point that, as I say, it's all going to be fodder for some marvelous PhD thesis that somebody's going to do 50 years from now. So they're going to find this cache of mid 20th century like theater and movie stuff, and they're going to do something with it that I hope it works out well for them. A, that they exist, and B, that it works out well. So how's your COVID been?
COVID here has not been a problem that I know of. Although, who knows? It's I haven't had it that I know of. Although I did have a weird episode with carpal tunnel out of nowhere. So
that doesn't sound very Covidian, but you never know.
Mark's wife passed.
I know a couple of people who didn't get it.
My wife didn't have coronavirus, so she had COPD, and her heart failed on her. But to go back to your mom, I just noticed.
Let me simply say that my father died of COPD.
Oh, then you know.
I know. Yeah, it's not a great way to go.
No.
It's rough. Anyway, but please go on. Let's, or else we can just stay here and talk about disease.
No. Well, I wanted to comment that your mom was in one of my all-time favorite movies, That
Really?
Darn Cat.
Yeah, I actually I haven't seen that in years, and I should. I've been threatening to do a Grayson Hall Film Festival for my sons, and we've done a little bit over the years, but I've been threatening to do a massive one, and we just haven't gotten to it yet.
Well, then he was in.
What?
Hey, she made it.
She made it.
Hey.
She's only going to be with us.
Yep, finally.
It's a special guest star appearance.
Yes, it's Beth Clapper.
She gets that joke a lot.
Relatively live.
Yes, she does. She also gets the clap on thing a lot.
Right.
But anyway, this is the lovely lady who your mother escorted around One Life to Live, and they went off to Tavern on the Green and had a lovely dinner. And your poor mother, while some of the fans were trying to carve up the bill, reached over, grabbed it, and said, "No, this is mine."
That's her.
Yep.
Mom.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Impatient to the end.
So anyway, she
mentioned something about a tax deduction.
What's that, Beth?
She mentioned something about a tax deduction.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Well, that was right after she had the swimming pool issue, after she broke her hip.
Yeah.
So,
that was a rough period.
Yeah. Anyway, Beth, I just wanted to bring you in to say hi. I know your day is busy. You run a pet hospice. Bless your heart.
That's difficult work.
She's a real hero. She is.
All right, I don't know about that.
Later. Yes, R.I.P.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say that One Life to Live experience was amazing. The thing I will always carry with me from it is Grayson went on one of the sets to rehearse, and she turned away from us just for a few seconds. And when she turned back around, you could actually see that she had become euphemia. And
wow.
The chills just went up and down my spine. I can feel it now, remembering that moment. And I'll always remember. And meeting your dad, too. That was fabulous. He had to go to an MEETING, which probably could have been an email if they'd had email back then.
Right. Yeah, a lot of things with it. Well, I mean, they had kind of this amazing relationship, and they worked together. I always said their neuroses fit like gears, and thank God for that. I mean, that's a cool thing to have in a life partner. And my father, I mean, she died in '85, and my father died in 2014. And it's not like he ever had another relationship. ever. It's not. I mean, and
You know,
he dreamt about her routinely. He also dreamt he still smoked, but that was another thing. And but you know, I mean, not for want of not being the most attractive bachelor in Rhinebeck, New York. You know, he he had plenty of opportunity and nothing happened. So you know, that kind of says a lot, I think, about the strength of their bond. Complicated as it may have been at the time.
it doesn't. And I must say, she told me once that your dad and she have the same therapist, who was, I guess, Nancy Barrett's husband.
Yeah, Harold Kaplan. He was actually quite famous. He wrote. I saw him for a period too. The family that shrinks together. I don't know, drinks together.
No, be my family.
He was quite famous. He wrote textbooks of psychiatry, and he died. I don't know, 20 years ago or so. Sweet man. Yeah, Nancy's husband. And yeah, we all went to the same shrink, and that was interesting. But it was actually kind of helpful in the sense that, like, I didn't have to explain anything. You know, I mean, I didn't have to explain dark shadows or, you know, I just thought it was like, yeah, it was like he was already steeped in the alcohol at that point. He was in the mix. So yeah, no, that was actually a convenient shorthand for dealing with us as a family. You know, but so Beth, you're doing this amazing stuff now. It must be heartrendingly difficult.
It is, but it's worth it. I usually try to take the unadoptables or ones that are not very social and do what I can for them for the time that they have. I do have a couple adoptables that I hope to find homes for. They were feral when my friend trapped them, and now they're very social.
Yeah.
But it's hard. And each one takes a little bit of me with them.
Right.
But it is worth it. And I didn't realize your kitty had passed, Mel. I'm so sorry.
Well, she was, unbeknownst to us, she had a fairly advanced lymphoma. Mm-hmm. And I'm very, very lucky to, my vet called me and said, it's lymphoma.
Yeah.
I could dance you around it, but it's lymphoma. And I said, then we're going to put her to sleep because I'm not going to put her through that.
Right.
And so we did.
We've had to deal with this a few times as well. I mean, it's.
Well, I know I've, sort of lived it with you guys over on Facebook.
Yeah.
A couple of times. So.
Yeah. We've had a successive string of dogs, and you know, have had to, you know, as things go, they have gone, and it's, you know, and we have two now. We have a feisty little rescue who's a curmudgeon. He's we've been saying he's 13 for a couple of years. And we have a 4.5-year-old standard poodle who is the most intelligent dog I've ever had in my life. And she's so intelligent. And she's our third standard. We've been doing standard poodles for a while. My wife's allergic to dog hair, and it turns out that they're fantastic. But this one is so smart that she's actually a pain in the ass. I mean, she's so smart that she's she's so smart that it's like you ask her to do things and she looks at you and says, "Why?" You know, yeah, exactly. Why would I want to do that?
She's a method actor.
Yeah, right. Can I have those? Can I have motivation, please? Exactly. Food isn't going to do it. So anyway,
well,
yeah.
I promise not to keep Beth too long, so I'm going to let her go. But thank you for being with us, honey.
Great talking to you.
Nice talking to all of you.
Take care.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
That lady worked so hard. So
Yeah.
RJ just messaged me and said hello.
Hi, RJ.
And
RJ has no idea, I think, how maybe she does, how instrumental she's been to the book I'm writing.
oh,
and and I've gone from there, spiraling into directions that are beyond my actual knowledge and general, like, exactly where you want to be when you're writing something complex.
Mark, are you okay?
Yeah, just repositioning the camera.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Because I thought you were
Much better.
transforming.
Well, now I'm kind of sort of looking at the screen.
Oh, okay.
Before I was looking way off to the side. This has got the worst base of any webcam I have ever seen. There, that's better.
I'm assuming this is also RJ. Hi, RJ, by the way. The writer of the Grayson Hall biography, A Hard Act to Follow. And because I met Robert Woods, who worked with Grayson quite a bit when I lived. He spoke very highly.
Bobby Wood?
Dr. Kaplan apparently was Phil Spector's shrink.
Yes, he was.
Well,
and yeah, which he obviously didn't do much for him. No, he was very early on. He was Phil Spector's shrink. Kaplan, I'll tell 2 Kaplan stories because I can.
okay.
He actually once told me that he refused to work with John Lennon or Eric Clapton because he didn't work with junkies. Okay.
Yeah.
He also told me that he had worked early on for a brief period with J.D. Salinger, and that J.D. Salinger was, wait for it, schizophrenic.
Well, that's, in a way, that's not surprising.
I know. High functioning, but
Which administration was Salinger involved with?
Oh, you're thinking Pierre.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's right. I knew the Salinger. I said, okay, I know that one from somewhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. He had JD ended up like holed up in Cornish, New Hampshire for years and years and years, avoiding the press. And the other thing I know about Salinger is that my first agent, Carl Brandt, once told me that his agent was a woman named Harriet Ober, and that Harriet Ober had 3 Salinger novels post the later Salinger novels in her safe. And I said, why doesn't she publish them? And Carl Brandt, who was a delightful man who published Nightmare Logic, my first book, Carl Brandt looked at me and said, if they were any good, she would.
Whoa.
So,
well,
yeah. So that's my 2 stories about J.D. Salinger right there. I'm born into this trashing. I love J.D. Salinger. I should not be trashing him, but those are 2 stories that I actually know.
Yeah, but everybody has that. Somebody turned down every novel ever.
Yeah.
Lauded and celebrated. So that's just the way it is. Someone wants to hear. Do we really have to hear this again? Poor Matt. I don't think he wants to tell this story again. The Grayson at the DMV story.
The Grayson what?
Your visit to the DMV in dealing with the car and something.
Oh, I mean, after she died.
Yes.
That story. Oh. Isn't that? I should have. Didn't I put that on the blog? Maybe I didn't.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Go over to his blog and read it there.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do it justice right this minute. I slipped out of the repertoire a little bit, but basically, for the shorthand is this: Mom, I had a VW Rabbit that I had gotten when I worked on a newspaper in Tucson, Arizona, and I was living in Rhinebeck, and my mother had 2 cars, on one insurance thing, and if she realized that if she got 3 cars on one insurance thing, then she got a lower rate. And there's a better story I'll tell, but let me just explain this one. So that so she did this, and she signed. I'm not sure. I don't remember signing over control of my car to her, but I guess I must have, or maybe she just took the papers and filled them out, which she was capable of doing. And then she died several years later, or a little bit of time later, and she died without a will. And so the hell I went through to get my car back legally registered in my own name was monomaniacal. And basically I kept having to I was living in New York, and I kept having to go up to the Kingston Motor Vehicle Bureaus in Kingston, New York, and just fill out enormous amounts of paperwork. And finally it was done. And the woman that I kept dealing with was like, "Mr. Hall, it's done," and everything. And I had this literal stack of paper like this. I'm like trying to get it into the little thing. It was literally like a book worth of paper. And she said, "Just go down to the final office there and pay $65, and your car will be yours again." And so I went, and the guy behind the little counter said, "Okay," he kind of went through the paperwork, and he said, "Okay, you have 2 different ages for your mother." And I was like, okay, well, she was really weird about her age, and she actually never told it to anyone. And he said, "But you've got 2 official documents here with different ages for her." And I said, "Well, I'm really not sure which one it is true." And he said, "Well, they don't match what we have in the Albany files." And I said, "Well, just tell me what's in the Albany files." And he looked at me and said, "I'm not going to play this game with you." You email Albany and find out what they say how old your mother was. And so I took my pile of paper and I went back to New York, and I sent a letter by snail mail to the Albany Motor Vehicle Bureaus. And 2 weeks later, they sent me a piece of documentation of how old they said my mother was, which was, I knew, not correct, right? And I went back and got the car switched back into my own name. But that led me to some other story, but now I forgot it. So,
all right. Well, somebody they want to know your early impressions of Jonathan Frid.
Frid. I actually, I'm not sure. Frid was a very sweet man. I remember Frid in our kitchen. He was always extremely kind to me. He was a really nice. Early on, I felt that I should be afraid of him because I saw him on TV, and he was very creepy on TV. But he was a sweet, self-effacing guy. I mean, he was really not threatening in the least. He was like the most unthreatening person you've ever met. He was really. Mom always said that he was could be a little bit slow in like on the uptake, but she was really fast. So I don't know the extent to which that was merely a mismatch of internal clocks, of mental metabolism or something, which of course doesn't exist, but you know what I mean. And I don't know. I mean, he was a sweetheart. He was a really, really nice, gentle guy. I always wanted him to have more of a career than he did, but that's true of all the Dark Shadows people, really. I mean, they all. I mean, I remember at one point when I was working in LA on Dark Shadows 2, Electric Boogaloo. Like one of the old, the old cast, as they were called, um, said to me that she had thought that when she was starting out, the Dark Shadows was going to be the beginning of a career, and it turned out it was the biggest thing she ever did. And Mom, of course, walked in with a fair amount of cred under her belt already to begin with, and kept working thereafter. It kind of cemented her into place in terms of always being able to find work. You know, so it was, but some of them were ingenue. She wasn't really an ingenue when she was on it, but some of the ingenues,
Right.
didn't necessarily ever break out of that box, which is a shame because they were really talented folks. But that's Hollywood. Hollywood's rough. I mean, the whole entertainment universe is rough.
Matt, did your mom ever take you on any of the sets for any of the different things?
Yeah, I was all the time. The set was basically only about 4 or 5 blocks from our house, so I would go after school and just sit in her her dressing room and do homework while they taped downstairs. And one day I was bored, and this is a famous story, and you guys already heard it, but so I'm bored, and I'm wandering around on the second floor. There was the studio was on the first floor, and the second floor there were like dressing rooms and conference rooms and stuff. Bob Costello's office and the kind of the rehearsal space, and dressing rooms, and Vinny Scalzo's makeup room, and Vinny was the keeper of the vampire teeth, and he's a sweet man. He was. I have a whole story about him on the blog on Nantucket 73, which it goes into greater detail than I will here. But he was. I feel I've gathered some evidence that he was a really early case of AIDS. He was an out gay man at that time, and he died young of a weird skin cancer. And I think very strongly that he may have been one of the unheralded very early cases of AIDS. But be that as it may, one day I'm hanging out and avoiding my homework, and I walk into my dog is barking.
Yeah, it's okay.
We can tell.
Dog and feed her or something. Sorry. That's the standard poodle. She's figured out that I'm here and talking, and that means that she wants to talk too, evidently. Jana, come here. So anyway, I'm walking around I'm avoiding my homework, and that's my son. He exists. He's tall. That's the other dog. Go. Thank you, Caleb. And and I'm bored, and I'm kind of like hanging out with him, and he pats the chair and he says, "Get in." And he had to be there in case anybody needed touch-up throughout the shooting. So he was there until about 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock every night. And he passed the chair and says, says to me, "Get in." And he made me up. And I don't think there are any photographs of this. He turned me into a monster. He took about like an hour, and he put pointed ears on me, and he wrinkled my skin, and he gave me a monstrous nose, and he did all this stuff to my hands and my face, and then I wandered around 9th Avenue terrorizing school children, which was one of the high points of my life. I remember walking out of the studio, and all the fans outside the studio were like, "Wait, are you a new monster?" And I was like, "No, no, I'm just a monster. That's all I am." And I wandered around, and then I got home, and at the end of the day, I was enough of a kid that like I really wanted to wear it all to school the next day, even if it got bent up while sleeping. And my mother was like, "No, that's not going to happen. No," and got the cold cream and rubbed it off my face. So yeah, I was there a lot. I was there enough that Sybil Weinberger, who I see sometimes,
Oh,
she was in a relationship with Bob Costello, and they got married. But I think it was pre that. I said Bob was a producer, I think. Another great guy passed away a few years ago. Sybil was in charge of music, and she's done music for a bunch of really interesting stuff since. I mean, she's had a really interesting career. But they gave me an oscilloscope in the control room that I could sit in front of and turn knobs and have the shapes go different, just to kind of get me out of their hair.
right.
I had my own little like bank of equipment that I could fuck around with and screw around with. It's slightly better. And I would just go in there and play with that when they were shooting until I'd go upstairs and harass Vinny. Yeah, I was around a lot. I remember being I remember being there to pick up Mom on her birthday, which is September 18th, which was yesterday.
Okay. Yeah.
Anniversary was yesterday, and don't ask me how old she would have been. I don't know. But I remember like being there on September 18th, whatever year it was, and I saw that Jimi Hendrix had died, as he did on September 18th, whatever year it was. And I remember watching that on TV in the Dark Shadows studio and being heartily bummed out. And then we grabbed Mom and went to some good restaurant, and I thought a lot about Jimi Hendrix. So I was there a lot. I saw it a ton. And I actually years later, I think it torn down the building, to be ruthlessly honest. But years later, I actually it became a disco for a while, and
Yeah.
I was young and single, and I went in once just because I wanted to see what it looked like, and it was the whole huge down first floor studio space, and I remember being young and single and all that stuff, and I'm in a disco and I'm talking to some attractive young woman, and it's going absolutely wonderfully, and I'm really like, it's all feeling splendid and together, and she really likes me, and we're really communicating. And then I mentioned that this was the former Dark Shadow studio, and she looked at me like this look of absolute who like, yeah, and like turned and walked away, and I never saw her again. It was like, it was an unimpressive thing to her, but anyway, be that as it may. It was, you're lost. Let's
Exactly. But then it was Cecilia's game. So.
Yeah. Well, yes, Cecilia. I've been with Cecilia. We just hit our 25th wedding anniversary, and we were together 5 years before that. So we've been dating pretty much for 30 years. No, we are in fact. I've been married for 25. And she's smarter than I am. So yeah, she's really cool. And we have
somebody wants me
2 sons and 2 dogs, and
and your 2 boys who are brilliant and
very tall. Very tall.
Well, that's kind of what they do. They get
they get tall.
6'4", so
if you feed them, they grow.
they do.
Yeah.
Well, just stop beating them.
Yeah, I know.
Laws. Wants me to point out that Jonathan Fred was dyslexic, and that's not what by slowness. Okay, we're not talking, intellectual.
That's interesting. If I knew that, I'd forgotten it. That actually is that is exactly the sort of thing that my mother.
We've lost Matt. Let's see.
And it was working perfectly until maybe lost power.
Could be. Okay. Well,
see, I was going to ask him if he had ever got to meet Rod Serling, because his mother did Night Gallery.
Yes, she did. Okay. I'm going to take him back out and then I'll send him another. This is all going to look rather strange, but
Hi, everybody.
yeah, do a dance or something, Mark.
I don't think anybody wants to see me dance. Let's see. Okay. That's better. But anyway, if you guys get a chance, get on Showtime and pull up the UFO series that they've got. It's 4 episodes, and it was done by J.J. Abrams, and they go into pretty deep background on the Skinwalker Ranch when Bigelow used to own it.
He has.
Hey, there we go.
Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Sorry about that. I thought I had plugged it in properly, but of course I had not.
Well,
So the battery went.
Yep, exactly. I thought I'd covered that. No.
That's the law of the land. That's what happens in podcasts. I've been listened to mainstream podcasts with big name idiots that who should know better, and they've lost a guest because their battery died.
Well, I'm glad to be back.
Anyway, we're very glad to have you back. Now, what were you saying?
Oh, I have no idea. I'm just rambling on about something.
Well, Mark had a question.
Oh, because you said you had been on some of the sets. I was wondering if you had gotten to meet Rod Serling when your mom did Night Gallery.
Oh, no. I think that was in LA. Yeah, they went to LA for work a fair amount. No, I would have remembered that. Rod Serling's life was amazing. I know this because I read an oatmeal cartoon once that totally freaked me out. But he lived through a plane crash. He did all these incredible things,
And his brother was a writer. His brother wrote a pretty famous book that they made into a movie called "The President's Plane is Missing."
Wow. Yeah, I remember that.
And that was Robert Serling, his brother.
Wow. Interesting family. Also, they were very into naming their child with R's.
Our family
like the Kardashians. It's like, everything's monogrammed.
Well, and then Rod Serling did that one non-sci-fi horror movie, 7 Days in May with Kirk Douglas. Yeah. That was Rod Serling.
Well,
the man was a storyteller.
He's a fellow Christmas baby. So
yep.
Very cool.
Anyway, Matt, we've got about 10 minutes left. So I do have a couple more questions here.
Shoot.
And one of them I'm not going to ask.
That's one of the benefits.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Okay.
No, I am not going to say that word.
They want to know your thoughts on the Dan Curtis film documentary, if you have seen it.
Dan Curtis film documentary?
Yes. Jim Pearson was one of the producers of
I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know it existed. When did it come out?
About a year and a half ago.
And it was a documentary on Dan?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, wow. Dan was amazing. Dan was like a minotaur. He was like half man, half bull. He was this absolutely he was he was just this force. But you don't get a house in Los Angeles with 22 and a half bathrooms without kind of being a force.
True.
You know, but yeah, I mean, Dan made quick opinions of people and stuck with them. You know, and his wife Norma was sweetness and light. But they were a remarkable couple. Dan was a force of nature. You know, Dan was not to be trifled with.
Well, you know, they're about to come out with a Jonathan Frid documentary.
So what?
They're about to release a Jonathan Frid documentary.
I think I might have known about that. Good. Is that Pearson as well?
No, that's Nancy Kersey and Mary O'Leary and their group. Okay, we have another one. Grayson did a few days on All My Children as a reporter named Marge Gray.
I don't remember that, but that's cool.
I'm sure that the episode is long lost, almost certainly. Was there any discussion about bringing her back?
To All My Children? I'm not sure. I wonder. I don't remember that. I wonder what had happened. I have one good Sam story, which is in kind of the same vein. There are a famous actress named Elaine Stritch. Did a lot of Broadway. Famously was in the original production of Company and is in the documentary they did of that. And she was an old friend of my folks, and she was married to a nice man named John, who developed, as I remember it, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but as I remember it, I mean, he developed cancer. As I remember it, it was in the brain, and they didn't have insurance, and so Sam wrote her into the absolute minimum of episodes of One Life to Live so that she could get insurance. You know, and she, because, you know, the union minimum that they had to give you insurance, he gave her exactly that because she couldn't deal with anything more. She didn't want a job, you know, she had too much on her plate. So Dad did that. He also at one point hired Dominic Dunn when Nick Dunn was kind of not having the success that he had success and he later had success, but there was a moment in between, as happens in all such lives, where you know, nothing was moving for him. So Sam hired him and he wrote One Life to Live for a while. So Sam would do that with people when they were kind of in need. I'm not sure why Mom ever did All My Children, except probably as just a chance to work and a favor for someone and whatever, you know. You know, it's not like they were all in fierce competition. All the Agnes Nixon soaps, you know, and yeah, no, I that's interesting. Mom did All My Children.
Yeah,
Talking about, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Talking about Dan Curtis, he did a lot of my favorite shows. He did Winds of War, Night Stalker, especially Night Stalker. I love Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Now, how in the hell could a man with that much talent do Super Train?
When Dan goes into something, it stayed bit. You know, I remember him wandering around when we were having on some horrible moment during the Ben Cross Dark Shadows. I remember Dan was pissed about something, and he was wandering around saying, "Yeah, I just want to go back to Winds of War and the flat hat. I just, you know."
Didn't he do the Batman movie?
Did he?
I thought he had done the first one, the one with Adam West and Burt Ward.
No. He had no connection to that, I don't think.
No? Okay.
No, famously, and you guys probably know this already, he got Dark Shadows because he had been on ABC's Wide World of Golf. Yeah. And he was the guy who had the idea of putting lavalier mics on golfers so that you could hear them say "oh crap" or worse when they missed the putt. and that was like that was such $1 million idea that it really opened up golf to television, which I have a running joke about golf on the radio. It's like the most boring thing in the world. I've been saying that for years. It's like, it's up, it's down, it's bouncing. I mean, but nonetheless, he revolutionized coverage of television golf. I guess somebody had to, and for that, it was such a great idea that they actually said, "What do you want to do?" And he said, "I want to do a soap opera," and basically did Jane Eyre until they put on a vampire.
The vampire.
So yeah. And no, he had no connection to that. I remember watching.
Just bad memory.
That's right, bad memory. I remember watching that. I remember watching the Adam West show with my mother, and I was really into it because I was a little kid. And it's Batman. And she wasn't. I mean, she was busy with her life. And then one day, she sat with me for 10 minutes and watched it, knowing it was this huge cultural phenomenon. And after about 10 minutes, she looked at me and she said, "Oh, this is camp." And that's when I heard what camp was.
Well, Melody has a connection to the Batman series.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it at the time, but
you know what your connection is, don't you, Melody?
You
know who wrote the theme song, right?
Oh yeah, Cecily Riddle, who was Nelson Riddle's daughter.
Oh.
And, she was my best friend, and I still hear from her occasionally. She's married and has kids, but we would see him. He'd come over on the weekend to pick up the kids, kind of thing, and we'd go out to have food. And so I met Nelson Riddle. I also met Frank Sinatra Jr.
Wow.
And you met Linda Ronstadt.
And Linda Ronstadt. And
wow.
People.
He was her personal band director. Whenever she performed, Nelson Riddle directed the band.
Wow.
Well, he was Sinatra's main guy too. So.
Right.
Anyway.
But I didn't mean to change the subject. I just.
Yeah, my life is even more boring than anybody else's. So, I have another question. They want to know if it was true that this is so stupid. Not that you're stupid, but I'm saying to the poor woman who asked. Is it true that Jonathan and Grayson didn't get along?
No. No, because he was in our house a fair amount. I mean, I remember him, I mean.
Well, didn't he come over for dinner and they would?
I remember him. He came over a fair amount. I mean, not a lot, but I mean, he was not. They were not famous friends, but they were colleagues, and they I don't think there was any really bad bitchy crap between them. There may have been moments because mom could get sharp sometimes, and I think Jonathan was not a person who responded well to sharp. Mom was capable of great depth of friendship and sudden sharp uppercuts of impatience, and there's no way that she would have worked with someone as long as she worked with Jonathan without him seeing both sides of that. But did they not get along? Absolutely, no. They got along. They were. I mean, I think that he saw her for the complicated, like extremely warm-hearted, but at sometimes sharp and impatient person that she could be. And it never seemed to. It was not like some classic feud. I mean, it wasn't Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, for God's sake.
Although Jonathan probably had a problem with hangers.
Yeah, possibly. I wouldn't have been surprised.
We are right at the top of the hour, and I was going to be good and let you go because I want you to come back.
Well, but I also was late entering and disappeared for 5 minutes. So if you want to press on, then press on.
Okay. Well, all right. Let's do that another 5 minutes. Will that be okay?
Sure.
All right. Very good. Mark, did you have a question? Because you're writing something.
No, just doodling.
Ah.
I did figure out why I thought Dan Curtis did Batman.
Well.
You know what Jonathan Frid turned into?
A bat.
A bat. Although, did they ever show him turning into a bat on the show?
They did chroma key bats. I remember the chroma key, which was early green screen, or may have just been green screen. But it was. I mean, yes, they actually played him in some capacity, turning into a bat at some point. I think.
I've only seen 3 episodes of the show.
Yeah.
So
that's a Jim Pearson question. That he knows all, he sees all. But yeah, as I remember doing chroma key with bats. And why would they have done that if not for Jonathan getting out of a slippery situation?
Well, I know there is a famous scene where the bat was supposed to bite him. It's in the 1795 setup. And he had to grab the bat and hold it to his neck.
Right. It was rubber, right? Yeah, I actually, the prop department was on the first floor next to the studio, and they were kind of wonderful. I mean, they were like these big burly guys who handled things really delicately and knew what they were doing. And, and there's a, you know how in, there are a bunch of great stories, but you've seen them all. The bloopers where somebody's running through the graveyard and the headstones are made of styrofoam, and Roger Davis, I think it was, kicked one and it exploded, and they never reshot anything. So
they could.
Do you know if anybody has ever given thought to digitally restoring any of the old Dark Shadows episodes? Because they could really use a little work.
Oh, could they? I don't know if anybody wants. I mean, I don't know if somebody wants to spend the money for that. I think that's what it would take, and it would take rather a lot. I actually haven't seen it for years. I'm embarrassed to admit I have not actually like checked out an episode of Dark Shadows in some time.
Either.
Yeah. But ask another question.
Okay.
Well, I like the Star Trek connection. We had discussed that before, because I forget the guy's name. He was one of the main characters on Dark Shadows, and he played Riker's dad.
Oh.
On Next Generation.
That's continuity.
He's like the main guy, except for Jonathan Frid in the first 2 or 3 episodes. Because Fred wasn't in the first episode.
Mitch Ryan, possibly.
I think that was it. He was like the main older man in the first episode.
Yeah, someone just told me Mitch Ryan.
Yeah, and like I say, he played Riker's father in Next Generation.
Wow.
So there's a Star Trek connection. And what was the other lady that was on there? That played the Vulcan from Dark Shadows?
Oh,
no, she was.
Katie. Catherine Scott. Yeah. She was on an episode of.
Yeah, she played a Vulcan. Well, sort of a Vulcan.
Quasi Vulcan.
Yeah.
Kind of a distant relative kind of thing. But I know she still has her get up from it. So they all kept stuff, Like your mom still had her Magda wig and things like that.
Yep. All that stuff is floating around here somewhere.
Yeah. Well, that's why you have to have a museum. That's all there is to it.
Well, I actually went through a period of selling some of it on eBay, and which was kind of fun. But after a while, eBay's a pain in the ass. I mean, I got sick of dealing with them. It was just like, it's this constant.
That's the worst part of it, is dealing with eBay.
Yeah. And it just sort of made it not worth it after a while. It was just like,
And the fees are getting out of control. They're charging like 10% now for.
I know. It was the whole thing was. I just felt like nibbled to death by ducks. You know, it was just like this constant little stream of revenue that I was being depended upon to provide.
You must be a Babylon 5 fan.
Actually, I don't really. I never really saw those shows.
Oh, because that nibbled by ducks was a line that they used in Babylon 5.
You're good, man. You know your stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a big sci-fi fan.
He was the sci-fi one. I was the fantasy and horror and all that kind of thing. I must tell you, I have a.
That's fantastic. An iguana. Right.
I saw it. I sourced it. Its name is Iggy.
Right. Well, my lovely wife, when the first celebration of my birthday that we had as a couple, way back when, she gave me a rescue iguana, who like baby iguanas are like this one. The rescue iguana had been purchased and then returned. And iguanas, actually, if you keep feeding them, they do grow. They never stop growing. And so we named Ozzy, the Lizard of Oz. And he started about 1 foot long, nose to tail, and he ended up about 3.5 feet long from nose to tail. And there's a story on Nantucket 73 about him falling out a window on the 10th floor of an apartment building and surviving, which I won't tell now, but it's a good story and you should go there and look at it.
Bless his heart.
The dying and resurrecting lizard, anyway. But he turned out to be female, so he became Ozarette. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it's now that Ozzy's wife is suggesting he's what is it, non-binary or
right. Ozzy's pronouns are they and them.
Yeah. I guess that's what we have to do now. But anyway, okay. Somebody wants to ask. Now we're not going to. Everybody's heard the Thing story, so no more Thing story, unless you want to tell it especially.
The sleeping with Lara Parker's pug.
Yeah.
And well, Lara Parker had a pug, and we tried to breed Thing because he was terribly virginal, and so we had this little pug come into our female pug, sweet little female pug, come in, and when she was at the moment when such things are happening, and so Mom was walking them both, and the Thing at some point got the message during the walk that the time was right for the progression of pugs forward into the future, and mounted Lara Parker's sweet pug on the street in front of, and a school bus full of tourists rolled up right there. And this started, and the doors open, and Mom saw that everything was going to happen. That just like the dogs would be screwing, and Mom had found out somewhere that they could go as long as like 45 minutes, and she was about to be inundated by like cheerleaders from Texas who would all recognize her. She would be standing there, and like she was a half a block from the apartment, and so she ripped them apart and ran for the apartment, and got in and shut the door and put them in a room together, and they just sat down and stared at each other like, now what?
Of course.
And no further pugs were ever made from that particular union, and Thing, I'm not sure if he lost his virginity there, but if he did, then he didn't die a virgin because he never really, he never really had another girlfriend. I think it was very traumatic for him. So, that's the Thing story.
Okay, you must now, because I command, tell the story about sitting with your mom in the waiting area of the motel when she was making gargoyles.
Oh, I love that story. Actually, friends of mine. That's on the blog too. That's on Untitled 73. And I tell it better there than I probably will here.
Oh.
But so we're sitting and waiting. We're in a hotel lobby in Carlsbad, New Mexico. Where I was just thinking the other day I wouldn't mind going back and seeing what remains. But nonetheless, it was a kind of dusty Western city back then. I'm sure it's progressed significantly beyond that, but you know, there was a really nice pool hall. I had been given a fake ID by the production team. I was there with my friend Matt Gaines, and I had been given a fake ID by the production team that was beautifully done. And it allowed me to buy Colt 45 malt liquor, which of course was very important at that moment. But that has nothing to do with the story. The story is that we were waiting. The entire cast of Gargoyles was waiting for the transportation to arrive to take us to a night shoot, and we were all in the lobby of the whatever the motel was in Carlsbad, New Mexico, which I remember the name. And there was a bell above the door that rang whenever anybody came in, and we were all in front of the TV. And as it happened, Mom's episode of Night Gallery was on, right? And so we're kind of all watching Mom's episode of Night Gallery, the Shadows on the Wall one.
Yeah.
And the door chimed, and because every time the door chimed, everybody would turn around and look because we were waiting for the drivers to take us to the set. And the door chimed, and like a happy American family came in, and like mom and dad and two kids, and they like walked into the lobby and stopped, and the father looked at the TV and said, you know, and we were all looking up at them because, you know, and the father stopped and looked at the TV and said, you know who that is? And the mother said, who? Wait. And I said, oh, that's Grayson Hall, and the woman on Dark Shadows. And they stood and watched it for a moment, and then went on to the hotel desk, and Mom was right there looking at them. And it became this Marshall McLuhan moment. It's like they recognized her on the TV, but they didn't clock that she was actually sitting 5 feet from them, you know?
It just shows you the difference of real life versus television.
Yeah. It was one of the, it was actually, and friends of mine I've told that story to, basically have stuck with it as an example of the complicated realities of humanity. I mean, it's sort of made an impression on people I know, about how people act in strange situations. But anyway, yeah, it's a good story. I like this story.
All right. Well, I know my brother has something he has to get to, so I'm going to wrap us up. And I definitely want you to come back, Matt. I hope this
I'd be happy to. Anytime.
I would like to mention that I really liked Gargoyles. That was one of my favorite movies. It was on a week before Duel.
Really? Wow.
Yep. It aired 1 week before Duel.
Gargoyles, I actually helped make costumes on. I got paid to put scales onto wetsuits. There's poor actors in New Mexico in August in wetsuits. I mean, good God. But
well, and this thing had Cornell Wilde in it. I mean, hey.
Oh, yeah. Generous Cornell Wilde.
He must have been towards the end of his career, though, because
yeah, he was a vigorous older guy.
Yeah.
You know, he was.
Jennifer Grey was in it also.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was. You know, it was a fun little thing. You know,
Bernie Casey was in it too.
Bernie was delightful. Bernie was the nicest man. He was funny. He had. I love Bernie. Mom was very fond of Bernie as well. he was
I'm
just,
being reminded I have to ask you about Richard Burton and your mom.
well, okay, I will actually refer you directly to the blog on that one because there's a really nice letter that Richard Burton wrote to some old Hollywood film star. It's on Nantucket 73. And it's a letter that I found after my father died. It had been like kept for years, and it was a letter talking about my mother to, I'm blowing what old film star it was, but it's on Nantucket 73. Go there and find it. Go look.
Sounds good. Okay, well, everybody, this has been wonderful. I've had a great time. I hope you did too.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you, Mark. And
thank you for, and why don't I send you each contact information if you need more information about the Red Digital or Red Camera, whatever it's called.
Right, absolutely. And
all right.
and Nantucket73.com for endless stories about me and my parents.
Exactly.
Some of which are funny.
Oh, someone wants to ask once and for all, what was your mother's middle name?
Well, her name was Shirley Grossman.
Yeah, I know that. But they want to know the middle name. I know it's an H.
No, that would have been, there was monogram title SGH, which was Shirley Grossman Hall. I don't know if there was a middle name. There must have been. But that family was weird. That was a difficult family. I mean, they might have simply left off a middle name. You know, I mean, they were all from Russia, and they were. Yeah, I recently found out, or not recently, but I found out that my great grandmother on my mother's side was sold to my great grandfather for oxen in Russia in the last part of the 18th century. And my grandfather was born in 1900. And so that made, and she was a Russian gypsy. And so there's, with that kind of background, middle names weren't living.
Exactly.
It didn't happen a lot, I guess. But if everybody knows differently, let me know, because you guys have some of you have greater expertise in my own family than I do. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, give my love to the family.
Thank you, Melody. You too.
We'll talk soon.
Yep. Thank you very much for doing it. It was a lot of fun.
It was great having you. Oh, Mark says thank you. Okay, guys, that is it for this week. Next week, our guest will be
Steve Ross.
He is a horror film producer, and we'll hear all about that. And he also has a background in martial arts. So we hope you will join us. And till then, take care. Bye-bye.